Israel vows to launch a ground offensive in Gaza as the enclave faces a power outage. Reaching out to the world, Taiwan invites regional leaders to discuss economic security. Taiwan's 2023 National Day celebrations end with a colorful bang. Plus, conservationists work to protect 5 endangered turtle species that call Taiwan home. Hello and welcome to TaiwanPlus. I'm Eric Gao with the news. Israel is pledging to launch a ground offensive in the Gaza Strip as its forces continue to hammer the area with airstrikes. The conflict with Hamas is entering its 5th day. Gaza officials say the enclave is facing a humanitarian crisis. More than 950 people are dead, thousands are displaced, and power is expected to shut off within hours due to a fuel shortage. Meanwhile, children have been found murdered in border communities in Israel after Hamas's assault. The death toll there stands at 1,200. U.S. President Joe Biden has condemned the attack on Israel.
We stand with Israel. We stand with Israel. And we will make sure Israel has what it needs to take care of its citizens, defend itself, and respond to this attack. There's no justification for terrorism. There's no excuse.
For more on the ongoing conflict, our reporter Rosie Greninger spoke with Dr. Eyal Mayroz, who specializes in peace and conflict studies at the University of Sydney.
Why is Hamas attacking Israel now? What are they trying to accomplish?
You know, we come up with a number of points that we can already look at. One of them is the increasing hopelessness of the Palestinian population as a whole, both in Gaza and in the West Bank, for any future meaningful negotiation for a Palestinian state. And that is something shared by all Palestinians. The Israeli government holds much of the responsibility for the failure of or the absence of meaningful negotiations. And so when you don't have any viable options, then a lot of Palestinians kind of turn to and support a more aggressive stance, even though not the way the Hamas does it. So another would have been the ongoing desire by the Hamas to release thousands of Hamas prisoners that sit in Israeli jails by prisoner exchange. So kidnapping Israelis, either civilians or military, and then exchanging them for the Palestinians. But also we kind of look at, and there are increasing signs that of a broader regional effects of the negotiations between the US and Saudi Arabia that include the possibility of some kind of normalization agreement between Saudi Arabia and Israel.
With both sides refusing to back down, what kind of resolutions could there be?
So in the short term, unfortunately, it looks like the death toll, especially now on the Palestinian side, is going to escalate. Israel has experienced a terrible national trauma with humane killings and massacres of about 1,000 of its people, mostly civilians. But now the fighting has subsided within Israel, and with Israel continues to bomb Gaza, one of the most densely populated areas in the world, the death toll on the Palestinians is increasing rapidly and mostly on civilians. But also longer term, the difficult decision on Israel's part whether to launch a ground offensive, which will increase the casualties on both sides. But the Israeli public is now looking for both revenge and restoration of the military deterrence of Israel that was lost in the last few days, which without it, Israelis would not feel safe anymore.
There are questions how Hamas pulled off such a massive surprise attack. How did Israel's intelligence not know it was coming?
This will be investigated in the coming weeks, months, and years. Certainly a shock surprise. So the assumption was that Hamas is not interested in a large-scale escalation because of the risk to the civilian population and to its own, military operatives and commanders. So I think that kind of colored the lenses through which Israeli intelligence apparatuses. It seems like there was a very, very well coordinated and controlled process on the Palestinian side, on the Hamas side, in organizing this surprise attack, because they've kind of stepped back from a lot of, or say, using communication technology and a lot of things that in the past have made it easier for intelligence and Israeli intelligence to pick up evidence of something taking shape.
That was Rosie Greninger speaking with Dr. Eo Mayros from the University of Sydney. Australian journalist Chen Lei has returned home after spending 3 years in Chinese detention. Chen was arrested by Chinese officials in August of 2020 after being accused of giving away state secrets. At the time, she was a news anchor on China's state-run English-language TV station CGTN. Chen's detention came during a diplomatic spat between Australia and China. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced Chen's return to Melbourne.
Her return brings an end to a very difficult few years for Ms. Cheng and her family. This is an outcome that the Australian government has been seeking for a long period of time, and her return will be warmly welcomed.
Here in Taiwan, officials and foreign dignitaries are meeting in Taipei for the annual Yushan Forum to build economic security in the Indo-Pacific. As Rick Lau reports, it's an opportunity for Taiwan to strengthen relationships in the region.
This is the 7th annual Yushan Forum here in Taipei, a Taiwan-led regional dialogue aimed at tackling economic security in the Indo-Pacific. Taiwan has gathered people and officials from India, Japan, the Philippines, Thailand, and the opening remarks were delivered by former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. He touted Taiwan's role it can play in this region.
Taiwan's future is uniquely central to global peace and security, and we all understand that that future is under constant threat.
Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen was also at the forum's opening. She said Taiwan's ties with the Indo-Pacific were stronger than ever.
We are sending a message to the world that in the face of mounting threats of authoritarianism and climate change, as well as a global restructuring of supply chain, Taiwan is a secure and reliable partner. Through testing times, Taiwan has stood firm, and we will continue to contribute to the peace and prosperity around the world.
This forum is a core part of Taiwan's new southbound policy, a plan by the Thai administration to foster ties in the Asia-Pacific and reduce economic reliance on China. Under pressure from China, Taiwan is denied access to many international organizations. That means events like these are crucial for Taiwan to foster ties in the region and to have its voice and its vision heard on the world stage. John Su and Rick Lowett in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Now, to find out more about Taiwan's relationship with Australia and the Indo-Pacific, Rick spoke to Roger Huang of Macquarie University in Sydney, Australia.
How would you summarize Australia's support for Taiwan and the current state of, Australia-Taiwan ties?
So I wouldn't say that Australian-Taiwan ties are particularly strong at the moment. It's not weak, but for a long time, this is really, and it continues to be so, it's more of an adjacent, right, to Australia's relationship, not just with China, but also with the United States. So really, it's been pretty consistent where in the last few years, the Australian government would obviously continue a mantra of, status quo, peace and stability in Indo-Pacific.
And this Yushan Forum is kind of a centerpiece of Taiwan's new southbound policy in which, the Thai administration has been reaching out to countries in the Indo-Pacific to shore up ties. Could you give us a sense of how that policy is going and is it bearing fruit?
So as far as I know, the new southbound policy perhaps bear some fruits, in particular in the Southeast Asia region. I can't say it has done too much in the Australian context. I don't think it's something that's really in the conversation here in Australia. So the new southbound policy and the Yushan Forum really hasn't really generated the type of attention or news or information that you would expect if this was a major policy that has included Australia in its design.
Events like the Yushan Forum are important for Taiwan because it is obviously shut out of many international organizations and conferences. Could you tell us a little bit about how it uses events like this to connect with its neighbors?
Given Taiwan's unique international status, it has to rely on these kind of unofficial channels, these non-formal engagements, right, with people who are willing to engage. So Taiwan has this, in my opinion, a bad habit. Some people would, of course, think about the old discussions about dollar diplomacy. Having said that, it does make a difference because, of course, we know symbolism matters, right? So it's all political theater. This demonstrates and does help generate some headlines.
That was Rick Lauer speaking with Roger Huang of Macquarie University. Taiwan's National Day is a big affair, and it always closes in fitting fashion with a nighttime fireworks show. This year's event was held in the central city of Taichung, but as our reporter Jeremy Olivier found out, poor planning meant the festivities were not what many people were expecting.
Ending the day with a bang, Taiwan's National Day fireworks celebration is meant to be the big blowout to cap off a long holiday weekend. The show is held in a different city every year, and this was the first time Taichung hosted it in close to a decade. And things didn't quite go as planned. The fireworks were set off earlier than scheduled, leaving many missing the show. People then took to social media with a longer list of complaints, everything from missing the fireworks to a drone performance being canceled and badly designed staging. Beyond that, this year's celebration was also colored by politics. With Taiwan's presidential election just months away, some politicians have seized the opportunity to raise sensitive issues, like Taiwan's national identity. Opposition figures have criticized the use of Taiwan National Day in English-language materials, rather than Taiwan's official name, the Republic of China. Some chose to boycott the day's activities entirely, accusing the government of trying to promote independence before people go to the polls in January. But all this didn't seem to affect the general mood in Taichung.
Thousands of people are out here to celebrate their country and its achievements. It's a stunning show of support for Taiwan's democracy and its autonomy. Now, not everyone may agree on the national name that best represents them, but what's clear from the numbers and the enthusiasm is that events like this one have a way of bringing people together, no matter their personal politics.
For many Taichung residents, coming out to the event was also about showing pride in their city, Taiwan's second biggest, and a growing hub of the country's high-tech and wind power industries. And ultimately, that's what this event was all about. Despite the issues, people were still able to come together and mark an important national holiday, allowing Taiwanese to celebrate their country and revel through the odds and a sense of community. Chris Ma, Patrick Chen, and Jeremy Olivier for TaiwanPlus.
Taipei is known as one of the world's safest cities, but why are women still feeling unsafe on its metro system? Stay tuned.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, download the TaiwanPlus app.
At a time when the world feels more divided, a platform for diverse voices to come together. I'm Divi Gopalan. Join the dots. Be part of the conversation. Connected where opinions matter.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Women in Taipei are worried for their safety after a new case of sexual harassment on the city's metro. One NGO says this incident shows that not enough is being done to protect women in public places. John Van Trieste has this report.
It's a case that has shocked, but not surprised, many in Taiwan. Police are looking for a man who allegedly exposed himself near 2 female students on the Taipei metro while taking photos of the scene. But the victims weren't the ones to come forward. Instead, it was a nearby witness who felt compelled to write about what she saw on a popular web forum. She says she typed a message on her phone warning the young women what was happening.
The
police are working to identify the perpetrator, but this is far from an isolated incident. 2 similar cases have been reported as having taken place on the metro this year, as well as more than 20 cases of sexual harassment. Incidents like these caught on security cameras. And those are just the cases that are reported. As the latest incident shows, not all victims are prepared to come forward. Taipei's metro is filled with cameras, patrolling staff, and intercom buttons. There are sections of platform with added patrols and extra surveillance at night, so-called safe waiting areas for women. The bathrooms are even equipped with devices designed to detect people taking secret photos or videos. But some women still feel unsafe, both in the metro and in public more generally. Some women's rights activists say they feel it's time for victims and fellow passengers to take matters into their own hands. But while some agree women should practice reacting to harassment so they can protect themselves, they also feel the metro company and police could and should be doing more. And that male passengers also have a responsibility to act when they see harassment.
现在这几年有开始做这个所谓的妇幼车厢，或者是这个夜间的这个女性的这个停等的空间哦。联合国有个口号说得很清楚，他说这个性骚扰不是女人的事啊。那所以在车厢里面，如果说今天男性能够更积极的去提供相关的协助，好，那是大家一起来。
The Taipei Metro carries close to 2 million passengers every day. And women say it's time to start taking their safety more seriously. Justin Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Another earthquake has struck the same region of Afghanistan that was devastated by tremors on Saturday. The magnitude 6.3 earthquake struck early on Wednesday morning in western Herat province. Previous quakes of that same magnitude and powerful aftershocks killed over 2,500 people over the weekend. That number is expected to rise. Many people have been left without shelter and hundreds are still missing. Search and rescue efforts are ongoing. At least 29 people, including women and children, were killed in an artillery strike on a refugee camp in northeastern Myanmar. At least 59 people were injured. The camp is located near the border with China. It's controlled by the Kachin Independence Army, which has been fighting for self-governance for decades. The attack is one of the deadliest on civilians in Myanmar since the military took power in a coup in 2021. The The exiled National Unity government blamed the attack on the junta, which has used airstrikes against opposition-held areas in the past. The junta has denied they were behind this strike. Back in Taiwan, 5 people have died from dengue fever in Taiwan over the past week. The Centers for Disease Control says over 2,500 cases were recorded nationwide in that time. That brings the total from this year's outbreak to over 15,000 cases with 25 deaths. The vast majority of cases have been in the southern city of Tainan. The city is set to host this year's national games later this month. Tainan Mayor Huang Weizhe says the outbreak will be under control by then. Experts here are warning people not to interact with one of the country's endemic species, the Taiwan sero. The hooved goat-like animals have started appearing closer to populated areas. The herbivores usually live in higher mountainous areas, but hikers are reporting more frequent sightings at lower altitudes. Authorities are warning people not to feed or disturb them.
可能会就是有因为喂食，他们可能看到人也会变得不怕人这样子出来，所以我们是希望说游客就不要喂食野生动物，这样子会改变他们的行为。
Taiwan is home to 5 of the world's 7 species of sea turtle. One rehabilitation center in the country's south is treating injured turtles, but concerns are growing about their biggest threats. Sally Jensen has this report.
This is G117, a green turtle. These conservationists from the National Museum of Marine Biology and Aquarium in the south are preparing to release it into the sea. It spent 5 months in rehabilitation at the centre after some fishers on the southeast coast found it with an injury. But now G117 is well enough to go home.
准备开始要进行这个编号 G117 的野放哦。那我们准备，然后我们先抓它前肢，好，好，准备，好，好，好 ，OK， 好，它就会准备往前爬行。
There are 7 species of sea turtles in the world, and Taiwan's surrounding oceans are home to 5 of them: green, loggerhead, hawksbill, olive ridley, and leatherback turtles. In fact, the waters surrounding the country's islands hold the world's highest density of sea turtles. But they're also one of Taiwan's most endangered animals and are classed under the highest protection measures. They play an important role in preserving marine ecosystems, as their main food is seaweed. Annually, seaweed absorbs about 10% of the carbon dioxide in the ocean, making it about twice as effective as soil. And by eating it, turtles encourage its reproduction. They're considered the unsung heroes of climate change mitigation. But not all turtles are as fortunate as G117. This hawksbill lost one of its back fins after it got tangled in a fishing net. For most turtles, this would be a death sentence. Injuries from stray fishing nets and equipment account for around a third of turtle rescues in Taiwan.
比如说我们要从嘴巴或者有一些是从尸体里面去拿出来。你钓鱼的时候不小心钓到海龟，那可能就会鱼钩鱼线被吞进去。
Only about 1 in every 1,000 sea turtles survives through adulthood. And now more of them are having to adapt their reproductive patterns to cope with rising temperatures and a changing climate.
26年化的气温上升降雨量降低，就符合全球气候变迁的原因。海龟利用它的气温决定性别比的方式呢，来调整它族群量，变成更能够适应环境变化。
Taiwan's turtle conservationists hope they will see more success stories like G117 and far fewer tragedies. But faced with the urgent dangers of fishing equipment and rising sea temperatures, the ocean's greatest protectors are still under serious threat. Yushan Pan and Sally Jensen for TaiwanPlus.
As we just heard, ocean trash is a big problem here in Taiwan, with waste piling up on beaches and in harbors. But there may be a solution. Sandy Chi explains.
This is just a tiny portion of the 8 million tons of trash that end up in the world's oceans each year. People in Taiwan have cleaned up over 300 tons of it in the first few months of this year. But that's just a drop in the ocean. But a team of ocean scientists may have come up with a solution. Despite not having engineering backgrounds, Their love for the sea pushed them to take action.
前进 OK， 后退 OK。
This is Taiwan's first ocean cleaner vessel, called the Azure Fighter. It can scoop up trash floating on the surface of the ocean. The 5-meter-long device can be remote controlled or run automatically.
把垃圾借由输送带，然后丢到我们的垃圾篮里面。那这输送带其实有很多的孔洞。那时候我们的设计是希望它这样船前面前进的时候，它可以破水，然后让水不会变成水阻，让垃圾没办法进来。
Controlling the Azure Fighter now looks just like playing a video game, but it took a lot of effort to get to this point.
第一个就是说。先讲卫生问题好了。海洋垃圾它冲到岸上干干的，其实还好。可是如果遇到湿的，它可能会带有生物附着，然后会有油污。这个岩石不是只有在水下才会发生，即便是风在吹，也会有海洋飞沫带盐分的问题。所以它的养护比较困难。
Corrosion isn't the only challenge Mother Nature throws at the Azure Fighter. There's also the danger of it hitting reefs and getting washed up on shore. The design team is constantly making modifications and adjustments to the system. Since they started the project in 2019, they're on the 3rd version of device and have already put it to work. In 2022, the team used the Azure Fighter to clean up 5 tons of ocean trash. They're looking to continue improving the system and push for a clean and beautiful ocean around Taiwan. Chris Ma and Sunny Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thanks for joining us here on TaiwanPlus News. Check out more of our reports on social media or download our app. Finally, enjoy these images of the Van Gogh Along the Seine exhibition opening in Amsterdam. I'm Eric Gao, and I'll see you tomorrow.